little creek on one side. So
no, it doesn't matter.
You know, it's our neighborhood,
Yeah.
and you know, yes, we can't park on the north side of the road. There's no shoulder. South side has a very ample shoulder, as you can see on the map. And there's a street light right in front of our house. So cars that are parked there, it's a safer area. If my family and friends have to walk a block and a half, it's not a well-lit area. And there's no sidewalks. It's unsafe. It just makes no sense. You're punishing a lot of people for something that apparently we did that we didn't think was an issue. And
Sure, Jeff. I'm going to take the hit on this one. It's my district. When I first looked at it, just a blanket, no parking from 3400 moving east to Chicago was the answer. But when I took a second look at it, I think you're right. I think there's room for a compromise there. Probably between that two driveways that enter the Newberry apartment complex, there's room for probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 parking spaces. So I think the compromise would be accepted.
What do you think, Michael?
Instead of going all the way to the east to the stop sign, there's room there for cars to park. And you're right about the north side on your side of the road. There's no shoulder there, and the ditch is there. So there's you know, at first I thought it might be a South Milwaukee solution for parking on your side, but there's really no room to park on that north side. So that's my opinion. I think there's room for that.
Mike, do you recall, was there other cars typically parked all along that road? Or I know you're concerned with some of the, you thought some of
the issue was the egress on the west, the Newberry, where it enters egress there. The trucks that were parked there were blocking, they were too close to that driveway. And people, the phone calls I got as an alderman, when they tried to pull out on Forest Hill, they thought it was dangerous because they had to, that's a relatively narrow road. And when you pull out, you have to inch your way out. And on the west driveway, cars are moving relatively fast. On the east one, it's not an issue because there's an arterial stop sign on 32. So they naturally slow down. The west entrance was the issue. Between that west and east egress, there's room for, like I say, 3 to 4, maybe 5 even parking spaces.
well, I don't know that it has to be that restrictive, to be honest with you. The road isn't marked properly. The right edge stripe is not painted properly there. If that is painted properly, then there is plenty of room to park. And actually, the police were called on this, and they responded about the vehicles, and they said they're legally parked. It's not a problem. They're legally parked, but as an alderman, when I get a call and that truck is parked on top of that driveway, and somebody pull it, you know, I have to address that because if there's an accident there, that's on me if I don't report that. But we don't park there every day. I understand, and we will not do that anymore if that's an issue. We parked there on Thanksgiving Day. We parked there this past Sunday. We had a family function. That's the only time we parked there. And if it's properly marked and you are parked to the right of the right edge strip, it's not an issue. You can see fine.
It's a common sense thing. Don't park close to that driveway.
Right, there are laws. And throughout Oak Creek, there's nothing posted where you're making people park 100 feet from an intersection that I'm aware of.
X amount of feet, whatever.
Right.
Or the TD decides X amount of feet.
If you paint the stripe properly, mark the road, the issue will correct itself.
Yeah.
It's not, it hasn't been an issue. I've lived there 8 years, and we don't like to park there because a drunk hit our fire hydrant one night on our side.
Let's hear from Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Ken, and thanks, Mike. Mike, you stated it correctly. Yeah, you got a call someone that was concerned about, the sight lines as they're trying to inch out and enter Forest Hill safely. So we looked at it then based on that, and we had come up with no parking, solid basically along that side of the road. And we had consulted with the Restart standards, and that was what the desirable limits were. And that's what, got addressed at the last meeting. And probably missed it in the conversation in the discussion at that last meeting was that there is no options for parking on the north side of the road. So obviously that's a consideration that needs to be and enter the conversation. So as we relooked at it, there are minimum standards that can be enacted and still get that to be a safe condition, and that's what's depicted here. And this went out with that second notice. So basically, you see these these 4 areas of red, no parking. Those are those XL decel tapers into those driveways to the apartments, and we think from an engineering standpoint that it would still be it should be restricted parking within those tapers. And that leaves approximately 230 feet between those driveways of that tangent section where there's adequate shoulder, where you could, probably get up to 10 cars parked within that length. And we thought that is a pretty decent compromise.
The road's actually physically constructed with a taper on those driveway entrances?
Yes, right. Yep. And Warren's right. We should, whatever ultimately gets decided out there, we should get those. We should get the striping corrected.
Okay.
If you mark the road properly, I don't think there's an issue. If you drive past there are no cars that park there typically. It's a special event, a Packer game, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and actually people in Newberry use it. There's a lady that lives right across from me. Her sister visits her 4 or 5 times a week. She parks there. It's convenient for her. And other people from Newberry use it. I know they were sent a notice and probably didn't respond because they don't think about it until they do it. But people from Newberry Apartments park there. He's lived there longer than I have, and he knows people park there, and it impacts him. And he marked the road properly. It's a common sense thing. There's people park all over Oak Creek, and when you drive, you have to, take your time, look, and you can't have everything. No cars parked everywhere. You should ban parking in Oak Creek then. Come on. This is, it's kind of overreacting.
Or now, is this solution, that was the second notice, is this a solution you support or not?
No, I don't. I don't think you have to
suggest.
I think you have to mark the road properly so that when you park on the right side of the white line that goes along the edge of the road, and there is plenty of room for that. That will give these people ample vision when they pull out of there, and let it be as it was. It's not an issue.
What do you say to the city engineer has said that we actually have a physically designed tapers on either
side? I could see that if it was a commercial area or this is a residential area.
Yeah. I know. Do we have obligations, Michael, to maintain, from a liability standpoint, to maintain that?
I think
access to those.
I believe that we do, and that's the reason for these tapers are to allow vehicles that are approaching these driveways to slow down safely to make that turn, and then as they enter into traffic to accelerate. So I
agree with them, but mark the tapers properly. Paint the tapers so they are marked properly. And
if you paint the tapers, you're going to be allowed to park in there.
You can park to the right of those because it's a wide shoulder and you can still park there and you're out of their vision. They can make their turns. If speed's an issue, lower the speed limit on the road.
I think that if I don't know that that shoulder is wide enough to be all the way to the right of the edge line. If it is, then I would say then a parked vehicle is out of the taper, and there shouldn't be a concern then with that.
There is a very wide shoulder there, and people aren't going to park much closer than our residents, actually west to Black, Newberry. We don't do that. Probably did during a rummage sale because there was a lot of people parking there.
Any comments down here, guys?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Excuse me, this is the older.
I'm the older person opposite of you on the street.
No, just wait, Warren. So Bob had a.
First of all, you made the comment about, common sense. I found in my years, common sense is no longer common. And obviously that's not working because Alderman Tolman got phone calls regarding people that were not parking with common sense and parking in the taper where the sight line was. So right away, we can throw common sense out the window because that's not something we can count on. Two, you started out by saying special occasions, and over time, I started hearing more and more special occasions where it sounded like this wasn't a one-off. This is something that is more along the lines of periodic as opposed to seldom. Third of all, when I look at the aerial photo of that area, within the tapers, there isn't a wide shoulder there because there is also a sidewalk and a ditch. So if you're parking off the white line within the taper, you're either in the ditch or you're blocking the sidewalk. So as far as I'm concerned, there should be no parking within the taper areas because they were installed for safety purposes. So any parking along those areas, I don't think is a good idea from our standpoint. Now, by making this modification, we are providing 230 feet of parking in that area. The only other thing I could think of is if you want to, if there's a way, Mike, to shorten up the western edge of the no parking in front of that first residence to the west.
Why would you do that? That's because we live in South Milwaukee. We can.
But we can also say the entire thing is no parking, which we did already. So, I'm trying to compromise here.
As I am, I'm sorry.
But,
that is a very
we're not going to go all the
shoulder.
way and ignore safety of residents of Oak Creek simply because of this.
Can I state my name and address so I can say something?
That doesn't mean anything. Never been an accident. First of all, I guess I would challenge that because I don't think you can safely say there's never been an accident there. Near misses are just as bad as accidents. If you come anything from the safety side of things, a near miss is just an accident that didn't happen. So, I can't endorse saying, no, this isn't a problem and we're going to allow it to happen because everything that has been pointed out, I don't think is a valid reason to just say, no, this isn't a problem. We're trying to compromise. We're trying to compromise here and provide the necessary parking for you and your family for these occasions so they don't have to walk blocks in the dark and everything else. However, from what I'm seeing, those two tapers on both driveways should be no parking areas. That's my feeling.
Can I say my name so that I can speak?
Hold on real quick. Mr. Receiver, did you have anything to say?
I agree with Bob.
Okay. Go ahead. Name and address.
I'm Lisa Pieper, 2431 Harrison Place, South
You can pull the
Milwaukee.
mic down.
Okay.
There you go.
Lisa Pieper, 2431 Harrison Place, South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm right across the street from the Oak Creek stretch here. So I'm the one getting the complaints on my side. I'm wondering if we could compromise and just put a one car, no parking from here to the corner so that there's no blind spots when they come out of the apartments or turn the corner.
And so if you're asking from engineering's position, we don't feel that one car is adequate. We have gone to the minimum limits and that's what you see on the.
How many car
That's
lengths
what you
are
see.
those?
Well, I mean, if you look at the what's on the screen, we got that distance of 230 feet that would be available between those driveways, between those tapers. So,
But how much, how long are
I
they?
guess what I'm just trying to, go on, relative scale. 150? Okay, thanks, Ashley. So, so about 150 feet then, it looks like.
And that's standard? That's a standard street taper
That is correct.
for every driveway?
For these driveways, the traffic that's coming in and out of these driveways, that's based on, what's the traffic coming in and out of there, the number of units. Apartments, there's a lot of vehicles coming out of there. During their peak hours, which is morning and then evening.
And that's the best compromise you're willing to do?
Well, I mean, that's giving 230 feet of parking. That's, you figure about 20 feet per parking stall, you got, 10 or 11 parking spaces.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other people.
And I do think that if cars are going to try to get to the other side, all the way to the right of the white line, I agree. I don't know that there's adequate shoulder, and if there's not adequate shoulder, then there's going to be a maintenance issue, because the cars are going to be going off into the grass area, and they're going to be leaving ruts, and they're going to be calling the city to correct that. I just think that those things need to be out there for consideration.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but your 230 feet don't help the rest of the street.
Well, I think it provides parking and so if you need to, yes, you'd probably, I guess where Warren's residence is, he wouldn't be directly across the street, but, you're walking one house over and you're in that allowed parking zone.
Take it from my perspective as an alderman on the south side. I get calls and people are telling me it's dangerous when they try and pull out on Horseville. Now, as an older person, if you don't address that and there's an accident, are you willing to step up and take responsibility for that? I think this makes sense, the way engineering has it drawn up. If somebody gets T-boned on that road in the next month or next year or whatever, it's not a responsible decision to be parking on top of those driveways. This makes sense. I think Bob was eloquent in the way he outlined it, and common sense doesn't always enter into parking. You're gonna get people that are parking on top of those driveways. And the sight lines are restricted. Somebody's gonna pull out. They're eventually gonna get hit, whether it happens next month, the next year, or whatever. So I won't support just open-ended parking on that stretch of road. It makes sense to me to restrict it, and engineering Mike outlined it pretty good. It's 230 feet here. I didn't even realize it was that much space. That makes total sense. So I think we're overthinking this. I think we should move on and go ahead with engineering.
There's some other constituents here then.
Well, it's up to the chair to recognize. So.
Sure. I'm sorry about that. Come on. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this? Name and address, please.
My name is Angela Cornejo Capular.
There you go.
Yeah, is that better for you? Angela Cornejo Capular. I live at 1216 Forest Hill Ave. I am neighbors with Warren. So directly across the street from us is just to the east is about where we would be looking at having available parking. Warren and I, very early on, I've lived in this residence for just under 3 years. We learned very quickly that we have a tendency to have family gatherings for the holidays at the same time. I do have 3 parents, my stepmother, my father, and my mother, that are all disabled. And we are a 3-car family, soon to be a 4-car family with drivers in our home. Mm-hmm. We also had a rummage sale this summer and had some items that were preventing us from parking 2 of our vehicles in the garage. However, we have noticed that consistently, especially when there are holidays, and I do know that holidays kind of are consolidated together with Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve. New Year's Day on occasion, and then a spattering of birthdays, that we do have multiple vehicles that we have in the past where we have been able to park across the street for approximately 4 to 5 hours at a time. My family is very large. I come from a large Mexican family. So traditionally when we have people over, it's not just 1 or 2 vehicles that are coming to our house. It's usually 5 or 6 or 7. So typically we try and plan and coordinate. And one of the opportunities that has been afforded to us by having the available access across the street is that we've been able to maneuver our vehicles so that we can give the individuals who have some handicaps easier accessibility into the house. I do understand that we want to maintain safety. I don't think that there's anyone who would recommend that we endanger anyone. My concern when this was brought to my attention was that we would potentially be unintentionally causing some additional challenges, not only for us as South Milwaukee residents, but also potentially some of the Oak Creek residents, given that there are very limited options for what I'll call overflow parking. I do understand and respect that we do have to maintain standards. So if truly that is the minimum that we are legally allowed to implement, I can completely understand that perception and that need to consider that. I welcome that addition of the song in the background. Personally, if I could always have a theme song, that would be in my top 5. Sorry. I love a theme song, so I just want to say thank you. My dreams are actually coming true right now, so thank you very much for that. But I would, if there is any opportunity to revisit that, if there is an opportunity to lengthen that opportunity of having safe, accessible parking, it does not just impact Warren. I know he's been the most vocal. We greatly appreciate that he has been truly a fantastic neighbor. We want to be fantastic neighbors to our neighbors as well. So we do not want to intentionally cause any distress to those individuals. I've been in this residence for 3 years, as I mentioned. I do see that there are individuals from the Newberry Apartments parking. I would anticipate that there probably isn't as much familiarity with where that designated 230 feet is, because traditionally most of the vehicle parks that are parking there are parking in that spot that will then be turned into no parking. I would also like to suggest, if it's an option, perhaps there could be some other safety considerations, an outdoor convex mirror to potentially aid in visibility, perhaps moving the stop sign, or having another slower option towards a little bit closer to the entry of the street. I do know it is a little bit more backed up because there is some sidewalk over there, but potentially just I would greatly appreciate your consideration in looking at potentially extending that a little bit further. I understand the blanket of just not having it be identified doesn't make everyone feel warm and fuzzy about keeping your constituents safe. But I do think that there is potentially a little bit greater of a compromise, given that it is definitely more than just one family that's impacted. As I'm sure you'll see, there are additional houses that are going towards the east that would also be impacted. They don't have as large of families. I think Warren and I definitely have the most foot traffic on the block, but want to be considerate, understanding that we are South Milwaukee and not Oak Creek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wonder if there was any consideration on South Milwaukee side. If, I mean, they can make modifications to their side of the street. And if a stone shoulder was excavated out and a shoulder installed on that side of the street, that could be right up to those driveways. And so just wondering if that was looked at all.
I can't speak for South Milwaukee. Like I mentioned earlier, we did our driveway about 4 years ago. And at that time I was told that we had a little issue with the approach, and I believe it was a city engineer in South Milwaukee said that there is a plan to widen Forest Hill Avenue, and that we had to get the elevation of our driveway correct because it would affect that. I don't know, you know more about that than I do, if that's going to happen. I wouldn't think so in this day and age, and the cost of doing something like that it wouldn't be worth it.
Definitely not happening here.
You know, I understand everything that was said. I understand Mike Tolman's issue with the liability. I understand that. I don't want to put my family and loved ones at risk walking further. This seems to be overkill in a sense for something that I would have corrected if he would have knocked on my door the minute he got the complaint and said, do you have to park here? I would have said no, and we would have moved. We did move. November 10th, that vehicle was off the street. I didn't know it was an issue. And we do have family functions. I'm sure you all do. We had Thanksgiving. We're going to have Christmas. We had a wreath laying ceremony this Sunday for my parents who are buried in Forest Hill Cemetery.
Moving a vehicle when there's a problem on a daily basis doesn't address
It did.
the total picture.
No, we wouldn't have parked there. We didn't know it was a
This
problem.
compromise as outlined in engineering makes sense to me. Now, if you understand that the way it stands now, there's no parking on
I
it.
do, I do. And I think that's wrong too.
We're here to compromise on this.
Right,
Let's just move this along. And
But I think some of that decision was made. There was comments that there was a business run, and that's not true.
you're the one that changed, and we've made the compromise, so I think we can move this issue on.
This is your district, Mike, so.
I'll make that.
Defer to you.
Okay, Dale, let's get it.
Yeah, does Newberry allow any visitor parking in their complex?
You think so, Dale? The design standard, it probably.
Some don't.
Yeah.
That's why I ask.
Oh, no, so.
From a couple of the residents that I had heard from, they said there is some visitor parking on site, but there are times when they have parked on Forest Hill.
I assume that to be the same thing when people have, holidays and visitors, and they can't park inside Newberry, they're parking over there too. What is the speed limit on Forest Hill there? 25?
35, it is 35 in that section. And that could be, it's an issue with speed, lower the speed limit. It's a residential area. The entire stretch of Forest Hill is residential. All the way from 32 to 30.
What would happen if we restricted the vision triangle, call it 100 feet or 120 feet, either side of the driveways? Would that work?
The engineering design standard should prevail no matter what we do.
But again, the recommendations. They're recommendations.
But I think they're based on design standards, so.
I agreed. But today, and in several other parts of the city, you don't have it at all.
But, well, I think the thing here, Dale, is the fact that we have actually designed tapers, entrance and exit tapers on the road. It's the prevailing. And with that, you have, however long they typically extend, which appears to be 150 feet. Parking in those strikes me as kind of odd that you allow someone, you design a taper and then allow someone to park on the shoulder and still obstruct vision.
So I thought we just said that those areas in red are longer than 120 or 150 feet.
I think Mike said those are the. No, that red area is encompassing the tapers. That's what that is. So that's about that 150 foot section.
The one on the west does not encompass the taper. That goes all the way to the 3,400. There is no taper much past Mr. John's second driveway.
Right.
The one on the east is pretty much the entire taper. It's a very long taper. I don't know that it.
Driveway on the west also has a fire hydrant in there.
Right by Newberry.
We took to the property line.
So you can park west of it.
Anywhere near that fire hydrant anyway.
You can park west of it, yes.
You have a fire hydrant and 3 driveways, what you have
Yeah.
here. So like the taper encompasses the 2 driveways. You've got a short little section and another driveway. So we just thought it was, made the most sense to put it to the next property.
And there is no taper on anything on the east where you have the 2 there. There is no tapers. To me, and I understand that if you paint the tapers properly, and I think the problem will correct itself. And you're not inconveniencing us, people in Newberry Park there. And I understand accidents can happen, but you drive out through Oak Creek and you won't find any restrictions in a residential area this severe. And we are.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion on the reevaluation of the parking from the engineering design on 3401, I believe, to the east. I think we should reconsider and go with the engineering design as outlined on the handout. Taper no parking restriction.
The three stripe.
Yes.
I think Alderman Tolman's motion is appropriate, but first you have to make a motion on the issue of the reconsideration. And from that standpoint, I'll do that. I'll make a motion to reconsider the original no parking.
I'll second.
What in that, Cruz? Okay. Roll call.
Gill, aye.
Tolman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Now,
Okay, now I'll make the motion to restrict parking on the, as outlined by, I'll just make it simple, as outlined by the engineering department on the handout.
Yes, the November 19th handout?
Yes.
Okay. Second,
Gill, second.
roll call.
Gill, aye.
Tolman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Have a good holiday. Thank you.
Number 4, review common council actions related to public works and capital assets. Is that you, Max?
Yep, I'll take that one. Thank you, Max Gagan, Assistant City Administrator and Comptroller. Just a review of the past 2 Common Council meetings. So on November 16th, Common Council did adopt the 2022 budget and capital improvement plan. That capital improvement plan was adopted as recommended by this group. And then from there, certainly we had departments eager to make their capital purchases, just given some of our supply chain issues we're seeing. So entered into a professional service agreement for fiber extension project, which this group may recall runs down Ryan Road out to the Lakeshore Commons area, then down to the fire station. As well as the purchase of the plow truck for $173,000, and then purchase of a Loadmaster compactor at $191,000. And then at the December meeting, we didn't really have any actionable items to report back to this group. So, thank you.
Thanks, Max. Any questions for Max? Okay. Number 5, consider a motion to approve the purchase of 2 Motorola's APX 8500 mobile radios in the amount of $11,111.60.
Can you cue the walk-up?
Sorry. Yeah. Tom Johnson, Assistant Chief at Oak Creek Fire Department. I'm here today to seek approval for the PO process to start for the purchase of 2 new mobile radios that came off of our approved for the 2022 CIP budget. If you have the paperwork in front of you, there is a price increase that starts tomorrow through Motorola and Baycom, which will increase the cost to purchase these mobile radios. So if we hold off until next year's purchase, that will increase an amount of $1,451.40 above the $11,111.60. We can enter into the PO process currently, which would go active today. That would get us into the process. No monies or anything would exchange until 2022. So we wouldn't get the radios and we would not receive the invoice until next year. So I was hoping to get this in front of you for approval to save some money, hopefully in the purchase coming up in the next CIP. Any questions? Dale?
We approved, Tom, back in September.
Yeah, September, I think.
Whatever it was,
Mhm.
was $17,000.
Correct.
And now we're seeing, a pretty substantial increase starting, the new calendar year or whatever.
Yes, sir.
If we approve 17 for the CIP, and now we're coming in at 11, why wouldn't we turn around and get 3 radios or even 4 radios and take advantage? Because this increase is significant.
It is.
I think I calculated a 61% increase starting next year. So why are we gun shy about turning around and if we approve 17, why don't we maximize that and at least get 3 radios or even get 4 radios?
And it is a possibility. Also, out of that 17 comes a removal install cost for the installers to put the new radios in. Comes to about $1,600 for 2 radios. So it's about $800 per radio for removal and the install.
Yeah. That was all part of it.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the quote from
Baycom?
From Baycon. And it said the quote was good until 12/31 of 21.
Right. I'm sorry, the expiration date is 12/15 of 21?
No, what I have in front of me is 12/31/21.
I don't know if that is
Right there.
recent. I'll just double check for you.
That's what we looked at back in September.
That was a September quote.
Well, if the newer quote is for more money, I want to go by the old quote, which is still valid.
The newer quote was that $11,111.60.
Even still.
Yes, sir.
Was approved with 17,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So how far are we in the process of buying the radios? Because weren't we allocating so many per year?
We were, correct, yes. And if we purchase the 2 for next year, that will take care of the frontline fire response pieces. I need 1 other radio for another ambulance, so there would be 1 additional radio requested probably in 23. If this is something that we can take out of this year's budget, I think, or out of the CIP, I think we could make that work.
So why wouldn't we go after 3 of them? At least 3 of them.
That's why the fire department can actually use it
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah.
Did you actually employ a third one, Tom?
Yes. I could put that in one of our paramedic rigs.
Makes sense to me if we can actually pull it off. Max, could you rejigger, or do we need to rejigger a CIP budget to actually help with that, or?
Oh, you're already under it.
Well, I don't know if it, for 3, if they'd honor a quote for an extra unit or not.
I would believe they would, yes. I don't think the quantity would change the price.
Probably be very close to 17.
Yeah, I think it would be close to 17 and really be,
$16,667.
again, and that's if they would honor the price for another one. And certainly if for a reason it did go over the 17,000, this is kind of one of those reoccurring capital projects. So, as was mentioned, there's still purchases in 23. So we'd anticipate that this would come forward again to the board next year for a 23 CIP item. If there is a small overage, we can certainly look, see if there's any past projects that are closed out. We can reallocate balances, or we could include it in the request for next year.
And the motion to up to 3 radios and see if we can get it done.
And that will take that fleet that we have currently, and every single frontline unit then will have a new radio within about the last 5 years, which would be a huge improvement.
Yeah, if we can pull that off, that would be great.
Yeah, let's make a motion.
Dale, you good with that?
Richards will make a motion to purchase 3 Motorola mobile radios.
Second?
Second.
With the caveat that it comes in under the
Yeah.
CIP.
Purchase up to 3, Dale. I think it'd make it.
Okay.
You good with that, Dale? Up to 3? Yeah.
Roll call?
Gill, aye.
Tolman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate the support. It'll be a good thing for the department. Thanks.
Thank you. Number 6, consider a motion to approve 4 Watson ergonomic dispatch workstations in installation. Good morning. Good morning, Captain Stecker. Dave Stecker, Oak Creek Police Department Administrative Captain. I am here today to get the approval for the Watson ergonomic dispatch consoles that we had the CIP approval, as well as it being approved with the 2022 budget. One of the things that came up was, as we're seeing with a lot of things, logistical and price increases, and we got the quote redone because our quote was well over 6 months old, and it came out to about $98,6175 extra. One of the things that we looked at for an option or alternative to this is we do need to get those switched out, is to close out the funding from a couple old CIP accounts that we have. That would be 6 of them. 5 would be completely closed out and that money moved, and a partial from a 6. Any questions?
That give you the capacity, does that replace everything, David?
So we have 8 total stations right now. 4 of them are ergonomic, 4 of them are not. So we're gonna swap out the old 4, correct? And obviously with dispatchers spending over 95% of their time at work at their station, it is nice to get them standing and everything else, so that we don't have a lot of the work injuries that could come from that. I agree.
Dave, the quote back in September, what was that quote good for? What time period?
I don't have that one with me, but Jason, I believe that it was good for.
I think it expired in September. I got it.
Yeah, they're usually good for just under 4 months. Or 3 months, sorry.
Going back memory.
June 2nd, and it expired September 2nd.
Okay. I think at that point in time, we were talking that it was higher than what we had anticipated, and now we're looking at a even more increase in cost as compared to the Russ Bassett's. So I think at that particular point in time, it was a $10,000 differential between the Russ Bassett's and the Watsons. So now we're talking a $20,000 differential, assuming Russ Bassett's didn't also increase as well. But in conversing with some of the staff here, it seems like you guys still feel the preferential treatment should go to Watson. So if you're gonna pull all these hat tricks, for Max or whoever to turn around and cut out some of these other CIP stuff, like with the jackets, etc., that's fine by me.
Okay, yeah, just to reiterate, the Watson consoles were a much superior product, and the availability and size with our footprint currently, it worked out a lot better for the dispatch center. Makes sense to me. Motion?
Richards will move approval of 4 Watson consoles for ergonomic dispatch workstations.
Second? Roll call.
Gill, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Sally, aye.
Thank you. Sir? Number 7, consider a motion to enter in a contract with R.E. Smith for design work on Drexel Stormwater Lift Station.
So now you're stuck with me for a while.
Yeah, that's all right.
So this is a design contract for the Drexel lift station. We talked about this a couple months ago about with the Drexel road improvements and the importance of the lift station to get that fixed. Almost 40 years old, needs some repairs on it. Trying to incorporate this with the Drexel project. Material delays aren't going to let that happen. The equipment feet that we're looking to put in here, it's not going to fit. Line work done and be ready to go as soon as materials are ready. This is with R.I. Smith, and they're looking at not to exceed contract amount of $55,000.
Any questions or comments?
Did I hear that right, Brian? They don't anticipate that they'll have material to make this a coincidental
No.
project? What's the time frame on there?
They're looking at 16 months for a prefab building. And that puts us right out the window of trying to make the construction schedule. It will fall into the streetscaping plan go next year. So that's when this will.
He'll move to, you ready, Goose? Sorry. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
He'll move to enter a contract with R.E. Smith for the design of the Drexel Stormwater Lift Station Replacement Project for an amount not to exceed $55,000.
Kelly seconds.
Roll call.
Keel, aye.
Bowman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Snelling, aye.
Number 8, consider a motion to enter in a contract with R.E. Smith for design and construction for Susan Drive water relay.
So this is kind of incorporating with the Colorado Water Main project that was supposed to happen this year. That ended up getting pushed back into 2023 because next year. So as part of that, R.E. Smith designed the main for Howard Avenue. We have all that work that we're going to be tying into with the work on Susan. So it makes sense to use R.E. Smith design that work along Susan, where we have a lot of issues. We've had 6 breaks in the past 10 years on Susan. It's a 1960s cast iron that we're replacing out there. And this is design work for not to exceed $38,900.
Seems like it's time. 1968. Any questions or concerns? Motion.
Yeah, we'll move to enter a contract with R.E. Smith for the design and construction staking of East Susan Drive water relay in the amount of not to exceed $38,900.
Second. Roll call.
Keel, aye.
Bowman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Snelling, aye.
Number 9, enter into a contract with R.A. Smith to design the 2022 sanitary sewer rehab project, not to exceed 55.
This is our annual sanitary sewer rehab project. What we're doing this year, for the last 5 years, we've used the same video and data. So this year, we're going back through using the newer videos that we've got of the sewers, creating a new list and generating what our areas are in the city that we need to go after. So R.I. Smith's been working on this for the last 5 years. Create a new list, start with our rehab and keep going with our sanitary switches.
These all bid, or did you just go with R.A. Smith because of familiarity?
They are familiar with this project. That's why we went with them. So we're not recreating the wheel with a new company to go through everything that we've already got. Start back with 7. We went with R.A. Smith on that one because they recently designed, although it was not installed, the dual lift station. So familiar with our requirements for that lift station, and they also have the staff that the city likes to use with the stormwater modeling. So that's why we picked them for that one. On Susan Drive, because of the familiarity with Powell Avenue and the design work that we're going to be tying into, it makes sense to use that.
Okay.
All right. Motion.
I move to approve the contract with Eric Smith for design of 2022 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, the amount not to exceed $55,000.
Second?
Dale seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Tom and I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Number 10, consider a motion to approve progress payment for West Rossin Avenue hydrant relocation.
This is just paying some bills. The hydrant relocation, this is for the work in front of Milwaukee County work. They're redoing the road from 27th 20th Street next year. So we're moving our hydrants to get out of the way. Or we're waiting. $72,302.16.
Questions or comments?
I have a question for Brian. How many hydrants are we talking about between 20th and 27th Street?
That's the scary part. It's 3 hydrants.
3 hydrants.
3 hydrants on a 20-inch main. And relaying section of the 20-inch main. You also added a new valve in there. Yeah.
I guess there's some.
For 4.
Some homes won't have fire coverage, I guess.
It says 4 hydrants, so if you say it's like
There's
3.
a fourth.
There's a 4th one. There's 3 hydrants have been installed.
Bargain.
Yeah.
4.
Blue light special.
There you go.
Yeah.
Make sure somebody runs those babies over. We get a picture of it, right?
Wait until after January 1, the price doubles.
Gail moved to approve the progress payment for West Rossin Avenue hydrant relocation project to Cornerstone 1 in the amount of $72,302.16.
Second?
Gale, second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Tom and I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Number 11, we want to consider a motion to approve progress payments for Rossin Avenue Water Extension Project to IHC. Is that?
That's me again. Pay more bills. This is actually East Rossin Avenue on the agenda. It's west. It should be East. This is with IHC, the connection of the 2 dead ends by the railroad tracks there. We are getting close. This has been a long project that's ran into a lot of hiccups along the way with utilities being in our way and the directional boring concerns we have. So we've got all the directional boring is completed. They're working on getting the west end where it comes out into Rossin. We're now going over the box culvert instead of under the box culvert. So they're working on that. They should have that tied up here next week. We're getting close to actually getting that wrapped up.
This has been a known loop or missing loop in our main structure for quite some time. And Brian has reminded me several times now he knows why no one tackled this before. It's been a difficult project.
How did we make out with the railroad company on this?
Actually, they were fairly decent to work with. The permit came very quickly. We had the issues with the electric line with the right in the 4 pits, and we had to work with the energy. It went fairly smoothly as far as getting the railroad goes. So we're able to get our approvals and get that line in, and only was a 3-month delay to get the electric line.
Yeah, but I think we started this a year ago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I'm happy that we got it done in a year.
Yes, we do. And if you remember when we were going for the approvals, this from the model is a huge improvement for this area for water quality and fire flow protection in that area. You're doubling your fire flow protection by creating this loop.
Questions or comments? Additional motion?
Richards will move item number 11 as listed.
Gale second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Owen, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Number 12, consider a motion to approve progress payment for sanitary rehab project.
So this is the, almost the last one for the sanitary rehab project that we did this year. They're coming back, they have to do grouting and testing of the lateral connections. So where the lining goes through, they come back, they cut those out with the liner, and then they come back and they test that seal, and they inject grout into that opening and seal that opening up to stop any water coming through the lateral. They're able to get most of them done. They have their equipment that's out of state currently on another project, so once they get that back here, it's supposed to be before the end of the year that they get that back here to finish this up. I think they have like 15. It's just another progress payment on an ongoing project.
Straightforward.
Richards will move item 12 as listed.
Seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Owen, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Number 13, consider a motion to approve the purchase and electronic leak detection equipment from Sewer Rhine in the amount of $17,649.
Finally getting to some fun stuff. So this is our leak detection equipment that we've been talking about for several months now. We had 3 companies that we came out and demoed their equipment and tested it on our system. This is the equipment that the guys like the most for its capabilities dealt with the satellite leak detection, and also just in finding other leaks in our system that we might need. It does include a correlator, which you're able to put on valves and help you determine where you might have a leak between those 2 valves. Getting a correlator and a leak detection all in one unit. A lot of the correlators that we looked at were like 25,000 just for the correlator. So this is a good bang for the buck, and the guys really like it. So that's how we ended up with this one out of the 3 that we had.
How was it price wise compared to the others? High, low, middle?
It's hard to say because it's doing both.
Yes.
Where a lot of just the leak detectors are in the $5,000 to $8,000, and the correlators are in the $25,000. Where this one will do both for 17. So we thought we got a good deal.
All righty. Trust your judgment.
Yeah, and again, trying to get this in before the end of the year. Prices go up another 3.5% first of the year.
This is also one of the 2 brands recommended by the satellite leak location company that's done this work all over the country, and that's what their clients are using, so.
Okay. Motion?
We'll move to approve the purchase of the electronic leak detection equipment from Sewer in the amount of $17,649.
Richards will second.
Gale call. Sorry, Gale, aye.
Owen, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Segale, aye.
14, consider a motion to approve the purchase of GPS equipment.
This is a new GPS unit. Our existing GPS unit is 8 years old, so just updating the existing system that we have. This is through Siler. They're the sole source for GPS equipment in this area. This is a new Trimble model. We do a lot of work with contractors, helping us take shots down in the hole. If you've got somebody that's not used to GPS equipment, you need to hold them phone. Big advantage of this new equipment is that it doesn't have to be held phone. So it calculates where that head is on the rod. So when you're in a hole that's 15 feet deep, you guys doing this is not paying attention. This will get us more accurate. Fantastic new technology, looking forward to it. Also looking to go to Whisk Forest base. We currently have a base unit at the headquarters.
No, you know what, I didn't see,
Get down.
They
were, I noticed.
I didn't want to speak.
With Whisk Forest, that is a statewide system that they have. There's a base unit at MSD. So you're able to find more satellites, get more accurate readings.
Nope.
Without setting.
I don't know if you,
Nice.
Brian, is this stuff, this stuff equipment with what the city uses? Is it compatible?
Yes. One of the city purchased almost the same equipment.
You probably know more than I.
Yeah, I've been,
Because I think the policy question is, how do you want to use neighborhood parks? Let alone this noise.
Comments or questions?
You guys
Motion?
I will move to approve the purchase of GPS equipment from Siler in the amount of $34,519.30.
Richards will second.
And roll call.
Yeah, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Allowing any of them.
that's what I'm hoping.
Consider a motion to approve utility vouchers and payment in the amount of $741,376.38.
I'll have to be at that meeting.
So moved.
You know, I want to be there for everything and help out.
Roll call.
Other stuff, so.
Yeah, this is Gail second, sorry. Gil's aye.
All right, yeah.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Aye.
Administrative reports.
A couple of things I did want to highlight. The administrative report does show that we've got 5% over prior year and 7.1% over the average. So those are good numbers. You can see that we've had consistent growth throughout that 5-year period. That's really the only thing on administrative I did want to know.
Probably sustainable, Michael, or one-off?
Well, that's a great question. So I didn't have a chance to do it for this report. I'm not sure if I'll have a chance next report, which will be year end, which is kind of nice. But I want to go back and look at the previous 5 years to see. And I know 2013 was a big year for us as well. It was a dry year. So I'd like to see that this isn't artificially created by a dip in that 2017-18 year period. So I will go back and look at that. No, I don't think this is sustainable. This particular year was very dry. We sold a lot of water as a result of that. So no, that's not going to continue forward. However, the previous year's growth seemed fairly reasonable. So in the 2 to 4% range, I think is reasonable.
Retail had a jump, didn't it?
Yes, and I don't have a particular sheet for that. Normally I'll have a sheet with me that shows who are the sort of the players in the commercial industrial side as to why, this guy's up, that guy's down. We did check into We Energies. We've looked at them several times on the industrial side that they've been up fairly consistently. They're up quite a bit, not from last month, but over, say, the past 6-month period. We're not sure why that is, but we do know that they've been consistently up over the last several months. So, okay, engineering, we pretty much talked about all the projects here, so nothing really new there. Distribution, I wanted to highlight a couple of things here. On the sewer side, our crew replaced the 8-inch main on Elm Road. That was discovered during our sewer inspection. When we're televising it, we noticed a crack in the main. We were able to get out and do that. That's not something that we would normally do, is dig up a sewer main and repair it in-house. So really proud of the guys for being able to do that. Also, the 2 manhole section tops that they replaced, again, not something we would normally do. It gets a little bit larger for us. And lastly, not on the sheet, but I do want to point it out, since it's topical. I think it was last week, we had a water main break inside the Sycamore Tower, underneath the foundation of the tower. Got called in, well, I got called about 10:30, so they got called in probably 10 o'clock, 9:30 in the evening, for water. What the plant noticed was there was a pit inside the tower that had water in it. So they've got a pit alarm, sent somebody out there to look at it and said, oh, you need to bring a bigger pump. There's water bubbling all over the place. So distribution got involved, called people out there, started looking at it. We could identify that the main break, or the main, likely was broken inside the tower underneath it. The water comes down to the very center of the tower. There's a main that extends it to the outside. In 2015, we replaced all the main in Cedar Hills. subdivision, including the line coming up to this tower. But at that time, it would have been too complicated to try and replace the line that goes through the foundation, through the pit. So we didn't do that. It's 1964 cast iron main. It doesn't have a lot of pressure on it because it's right at the tower. Thought it was going to be in good shape. What we found on the outside was what was in reasonable shape from a corrosion perspective. This break ended up being a shear, which is really common on cast iron, but it's such a short piece of main, it didn't make sense as to why it would shear, but it sheared very close to the inside wall of the foundation. We ended up calling a hydro excavator to come in and try and excavate out. We couldn't get our sewer machine in through the little door of the tower. So they excavated that out probably, I think they had the clamp on maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. We were able to get the clamp to seat on it. We put an anode in there and we're comfortable, fill the area back in with slurry. We're comfortable with the repair. Since that time, Brian and I have been talking and brainstorming. We need to come up with either a replacement plan or a backup plan if this happens again. And so we have a working plan now that we think is going to work out well. We're going to vet that plan out a little bit more. And when that becomes the case, we're not going to replace this. We have the same situation in Howell Tower. The plan would be develop a workaround, if you will. Right now, those are 12-inch lines going into the tower. So the current backup plan would be to slide an 8-inch line through there and reducers on either side that would get us back up and running quickly. Probably going to need to order those reducers so we have them sitting in the garage in case anything happens. For quite a time here, that Sycamore Tower was out of service. So during the repair period, so let's call it, 12 plus hours, the tower was out of service. The plant couldn't see anything at that point. So we're pumping. At that time, one of the easiest things to do would be to put a pressure gauge on a hydrant up in Cedar Hills, and they can operate off of that, except in the middle of winter, and that happened to be the coldest day we've gotten so far. That's not going to work. It's going to freeze almost instantly. So in the end, we're able to get, once we put it back online, a pressure gauge. There is a pressure gauge in the pit. The electronic gauge, because it had flooded, was no longer functioning, so the plant still can't see the tower. We actually put a video camera focused on that gauge, and that analog gauge that fed back to the plant, and they could see a picture of the gauge and they could operate using that. So everyone adapted and worked really, really well. What you may have seen in the morning, so I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock. Well, no, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. There was a break on 27th Street, likely was related to this. Likely taking the tower out of service is going to change some of that pressure fluctuations. We instructed the plant to pump slightly over what they would normally pump for that period of time, so we don't lose any pressure in the area that we can't monitor. We think that types of changes and change of flow may have caused that main break on 27th Street, which in the end really was a small corrosion hole. It wasn't a big deal, except the way the DOT has designed the road. Everything drains from the east parking lane clear across the road down Sycamore into Walmart. So it made a huge mess. Kudos to the DPW, kudos to the city of Franklin's DPW, police departments from both sides, getting out there with barrels and icing, and they were plowing that road for hours, keeping the ice off of it, keeping it running. So that turned out to be a bigger deal. That was all about the drainage. One other side note on that one, part of the reason why it took so long is Digger's hotline just didn't respond. So we called in, we said, emergency locate, come out here in an hour. We can't do anything. We can't poke holes in pavement until they're done. They just didn't show up. So our locator used to work for one of those companies. He was calling supervisors to get someone out. Got to get this located. We can't have this, we had chopper 12 or one of them was up there already. So we can't have this continue. We've got to get moving. So that kind of delayed things, made it a little bit ugly out there. But all got buttoned up and good to go. We did have another break on Chicago Road. It is mentioned here. If you remember Al Gassenhuber, this happens to be right in front of his house. It's 30 feet off the road, so it's in the grass area, but there were some trees in the way that made it more difficult to try and do. That was a long break repair as well. Corrosion hole on that one, that 1969 ductile iron on that one. Not a big deal to repair. It just took a really long time to do. So we do have some cleanup work that's going to have to be done out there. effectively parted his house with the water flowing down there that came down his driveway and down the other side. So there's going to be some cleanup work to do. And he was fantastic with it. In fact, he asked us, please don't do the cleanup now, do it in the springtime, which is what we'd prefer anyhow, let things settle. So, yeah. He is, yeah. Yeah, that was like, I don't know if does it say here, that was like 1:00 in the morning too. It was really early in the morning. They knocked on his door and yeah, he was there.
But he didn't fix it himself.
No.
Why didn't Al do that? He could have called Brian. I know Brian would have gone
He
down there.
supervised a little. So no, I appreciate him. It was really nice working with him.
How did you guys go about getting underneath a tree or something? Wasn't it underneath a tree?
Yeah, it was underneath the tree. They just dug the heck out of it. There were a lot of roots in there. And it was deep. That main was really deep. So we're thinking at some point, they thought that road was going to get cut down. Yeah, that was a difficult one. Plant stuff, nothing a particular note there, but I do want to, again, not on the report because it just happened yesterday, but our sluice gate between the two clear well pieces, we had a plant shut down yesterday again in order to address the gate. The gate is fully functional now. We're happy with it. Goes up and down as it should. It was a great project there too. Staff came in early to try and help out with that. We've had it done a couple of times here, so that's great. We took the opportunity. Brian had an engineer come in to do the inspection of those two tank sides. So we've done our official 10-year inspection on it, dry inspection. That was fantastic. And as I haven't seen the report yet, but there wasn't really anything notable as deficiencies.
No, inspector was very happy with everything. Some minor deficiencies that you would expect in the age of the plant, but nothing that was serious concern. That was it.
What about the interconnect between us and South Milwaukee?
Flush those, we like to do those on an annual basis. We've got that one up on Rawson that's got a leak and we're going to be going after that, kind of developing a plan since it's right in the turn lane there. So hold off, maybe not do it in the winter time. We're still evaluating that. There's a manhole that was put in, and I forget, I want to say 85 that was put in. There was a manhole that was put in, we presume to be a metering manhole, but there's nothing in it. The main break appears to have happened just north of that manhole. So we'll probably take that manhole out, but then we'll have to deal with whatever that break is. Yeah, we're still noodling that one.
How are we doing with Franklin? Any changes?
There has been no update.
No update?
No, nothing new.
Okay.
No
Nothing new.
discussions.
We can sleep tight yet.
We can see that Darren has been busy in November. He's made some big changes.
Yeah.
So he must have been a busy boy at pulling some things to get a lot of loose ends together. Just got one or two, water main crossings and checking problem sewers. Other than that,
yeah, the problem sewers and problem manholes, we've got sort of a new system and we're going to be revisiting those goals. We think that goals got kind of a little out of whack. So we're working on that now to make sure that gets corrected where we want to see it. The other one I'd say there is the broken valves, or I'm sorry, operating valves. We're way low on that compared to where we'd like to be. And that's because we discovered through the valve operation program that we have so many valves that were a problem this year that we ended up cutting off the summer help and saying, stop operating valves for right now. We've got too many to dig already. We'll come back to that next year and really hit that again.
Right.
So
still made a hell of a lot of improvement there.
Yeah.
And then I noticed we splurged and bought a lot of batteries in the month.
The battery backups, boy, you got to have them when you need them. And
is that, like for the security system, the generator system, have we got that on a spreadsheet and we just do it like every 2 years or something? And
Nene keeps track all of that, yeah.
Yep. And actually the backup systems, we purchased a lot of those as well, replace the outdated systems. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, good idea.
Dan's done a great job of organizing all of that. We had a few in distribution and a few at the plant. In the meter pit, who handles those? Is that distribution or the plant? And then there was a few of them that were put in that just got forgotten. So Dan's done a great job of inventorying all that and getting those up to date. And yeah, like Brian said, some of the units just weren't working any longer. And I'm trying to think, I think it was Sycamore Tower that we had communication failures, intermittent. We always go to, it must be a radio problem of some sort. Turns out it was a battery backup just dropping out every now and then, cycling power and communication. So yeah, it was good to have that done. He did a great job on
Any other questions or comments? Happy, have a good, Christmas holiday, everybody, and enjoy, your time away if you're taking any time off. And, today would have been, Mike's last meeting because he's retiring in January, so. And, new police chief, was, Captain Stecker is gonna become the new police chief after, Anderson retires in January, so lots of changes going. Motion to adjourn?
Kelly moves to adjourn.
Bill seconds.
Roll call.
Keel, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
So, Kelly, aye.
Here we go.